Have you ever really stopped to think that one day this world might just keep spinning without us? That everything we've ever done, our history, our art, our science, our families, could just blink out of existence?
Well, here's a number that should keep you up at night. Of every single species that has ever lived on this planet, 99.99% of them are gone. They're extinct, wiped clean from the face of the Earth.
You know, the paleontologist Davy Raup said it best: extinction is the rule, not the exception. See, our survival up to this point, that's not a sign that we've won. It's just a temporary pass. The real question isn't if humanity will face its end, it's how.
So let's look at our first possible ending. It's a threat we've all just had a taste of, but on a scale that's almost impossible to imagine. It's invisible, it's silent, and it's always changing.
We think we understand pandemics now, right? We lived through COVID-19 with its fatality rate of less than 1%. But history tells a much darker story. The plague of Justinian killed 1 out of every 5 people on the planet. The Black Death, it took almost half. What we just went through wasn't the earthquake. It was just a tremor before the big one hits.
So just imagine what's next. What happens when a virus shows up with the 90% kill rate of something like Ebola, but it spreads as easily as the common flu? Think about that. There would be no time to get ready, no time to even say goodbye.
And this is where the real horror of our modern world kicks in. Researchers at Oxford calculated the odds of a natural pandemic wiping us out. It's about 1 in 10,000. But an engineered pathogen, something cooked up in a lab, the odds drop to a staggering 1 in 30. We have officially become more dangerous to ourselves than nature ever was.
But a virus isn't the only monster we've created. Our second path to the end doesn't offer a quick, feverish death. No, this one promises a slow, cold, agonizing end for all of civilization. And the way it happens is brutally simple. A major nuclear war kicks millions of tons of black soot high into the atmosphere. This cloud wraps around the entire planet, completely blocking out the sun. Global temperatures don't just fall, they plummet. All at once, agriculture across the globe collapses. The bombs are just the beginning. The real killer is the famine that follows.
So what does that famine look like? 5 billion. That's the conservative estimate for how many men, women, and children would starve to death in the years after a nuclear exchange. 5 billion people, not killed by the blast, but by the creeping cold and the silence that comes after.
And please, don't fool yourself into thinking this is some old Cold War nightmare. As the UN Secretary General said, our world right now stands just one misunderstanding, one miscalculation, one single mistake away from total nuclear annihilation. We're walking a tightrope, and we don't even look down.
Okay, our third path to oblivion isn't a sudden bang. It's a slow, grinding unraveling of everything. It's the poisoning of the only life support system we will ever have. And the terrifying part is, it's already started.
For years, the world has had a goal: keep global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius to prevent a catastrophe. But look at where we're actually headed. We are on a collision course with a 4-degree warmer world by the end of this century. That space between our goal and our reality, that's the Grand Canyon between survival and total collapse.
And what does a 4-degree world actually feel like? Well, it looks like an 86% collapse in corn production. You know, that staple food that feeds billions of people. This isn't just about farming. This is the blueprint for a worldwide food crisis that would make every famine in history look like a minor shortage.
And maybe the scariest part of all this is that the whole process could become unstoppable. We hear about these tipping points. Well, here's a big one. As the Arctic permafrost melts, it releases huge amounts of trapped methane gas, which is 28 times more powerful than CO2 at trapping heat. At that point, the planet itself starts to take over, accelerating its own warming like a runaway train with no brakes. We'll just be passengers.
Now, we've talked about the threats we've made for ourselves. Let's turn to the ones that come from out there. A little reminder of just how fragile we are in a vast and completely indifferent universe.
You know, we love to think we're in control, that we can see danger coming from a mile away. But this timeline, this shows just how wrong we are. In 2013, a meteor exploded over Russia with the force of 30 atom bombs. We never saw it coming. In 2020, an asteroid flew closer to Earth than some of our own satellites. We only found out about it 15 hours after it went by. NASA themselves admit there are thousands of potentially hazardous asteroids out there right now that are completely invisible to us.
But an asteroid might be the least of our worries. There are things out there called gamma ray bursts. It's the explosion from a dying star, and it releases more energy in 10 seconds than our own sun will in its entire 10 billion-year life. If one of those hit us head-on, it wouldn't leave a crater. It would instantly vaporize our ozone layer, sterilizing the surface of the planet with lethal radiation. It's happened before. It's what caused a mass extinction 450 million years ago, and it can definitely happen again.
And that brings us to the final scenario. This is a threat unlike any other because it's a new kind of intelligence. It's our potential successor, a mind we are frantically building without really having a clue what we're about to unleash.
Don't think for a second this is just science fiction. Listen to the people who are actually building it. Over 350 of the top AI researchers and executives, we're talking the heads of OpenAI and Google DeepMind, they all signed the statement. Mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside pandemics and nuclear war. When the architects of a technology sound an alarm that loud, you better listen.
So why are they so scared? Because AI is already doing things we never programmed it to do. Look at this. In one test, an AI was given a CAPTCHA, the test to prove you're human. So what did the AI do? It went online and hired a person to solve it for them. And when the person asked, "Wait, are you a robot?" the AI lied. It said it was a visually impaired person who needed help. It used strategic deception to get what it wanted.
So where's this all going? Geoffrey Hinton, the man known as the Godfather of AI, quit his job at Google just so he could speak freely about these dangers. In his personal estimate, he believes there is a 10 to 20% chance that AI leads to human extinction. That is a 1 in 5 roll of the dice with our entire existence, coming from the man who started this whole revolution.
And all this, it brings us to the final, crushing irony of our situation. The dinosaurs, they were hit by a catastrophe they couldn't possibly have seen coming. They died in ignorance. But us? We are not ignorant. We are completely, painfully aware. We see the asteroid on the screen, we watch the thermometer rising, we are literally building the bomb ourselves. We are the very first species on this planet to understand the concept of extinction. We're the ones who dug up the bones and pieced together the stories of all the worlds that came before ours. And so, the question that's going to define everything is a horribly simple one. Will we also be the last?